Have you ever delayed something because you thought, I'll do it when I feel more ready, more confident, more qualified, more organized? But what if readiness is built through action? So, hi everyone, and welcome back to the Work and Study Smarter series. I'm Faith B, and today we're going to speak about productivity, growth, discipline, and building your future intentionally. Today, I want to talk about something that I'm always learning as well. You cannot wait to feel ready before moving. So, in your study now, stop waiting to feel prepared enough. So, what I'm talking about here is over revising without testing yourself, perfectionism, delaying SBAQs and problem questions, learning through doing, because what you're actually doing sometimes, it leads to procrastination because you spend so much time wanting to be perfect and completely ready and motivated that actually you don't actually start it as soon as possible. So what I would advise you to do is just take it step by step. Even if you don't feel completely ready, even if you get 50% initially on your single best answer questions for law students, try again. Now, my personal journey was this. When I first started my equity and trust FBAQs, I had no clue what equity and trust was even about. But I actually started by avidly practicing my FBAQs, and my score increased and increased and increased to the point where in my actual exam I got 75 out of 100 in my SBAQs. Now, I wouldn't have got that first of all if it wasn't for God, so thank you, Jesus. Second of all, if I didn't have a proper and conducive study schedule, but also a mindset that said to me, look, it doesn't matter if you fail the first attempt. What matters is that you get back up. And so it goes back into what we discussed last week. You have to have discipline and resilience together for success. And that's what's really important. And then for those who are not doing law specifically, I'm talking about your assignments. So I'm talking about your essays, your dissertations, your formatives, your summatives. For those who don't know, formatives don't count towards your final grade, summatives do. And most of all, most courses, first year, the formative year, but second year, you propel straight into the summative landscape. So again, it's about doing the assignments, not necessarily waiting until you feel completely ready or perfect to do it, but just working on it a little bit by day. Because if you wait until you're completely ready and your let's say your essay question is due in a couple of weeks, if you wait until the last week, you've missed a week to do some preliminary or basic research to give you a sense of what to include in your essay. So sometimes confidence comes after repetition, not before it. And again, it goes back to what we said last week. And the series of these videos now are around mindset shifting, because a lot of people I speak to are like, Faith, how can I shift my mindset? And it goes back to that yet analogy. I can't do it yet. I'm not ready yet, but I'm still going to, build and kind of develop as well. And it goes back, for example, if you're building a house, you might not be ready yet to see the full picture, but you are still going to buy the basic essentials. You are going to buy bricks. You are going to buy whatever you need for that house to be built. You are going to buy the land. So it's the same thing as well with your essay. You might not be ready to submit it, but you've got to do some research. Buy your bricks, look at your scholars, find out what you want to write about. And I know when I was at King's, for example, and I did comparative political science, and we had to choose countries that had, for example, exhibited democratic backsliding, for example. And democratic backsliding is when a country is moving away from the strands of democracy. Okay, so moving on now, in work. So in a work context, we are focusing on growth before comfort. So we're talking about interviews, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about taking opportunities, asking questions, stepping into spaces before you have that full confidence that you want. I think that's what's really, really important. And a lot of career growth actually begins when you move out of your comfort zone. So, for example, I do know, obviously, that a lot of graduate jobs, graduates are struggling coming out of university in terms of graduate roles. But I'd say one thing you can do now is just apply to a stream of jobs whilst still in education to get those interview skills as well. One thing I will talk about, I will launch an interview prep series around how to prep for interviews, how to be confident in interviews, how to ask questions in interviews. But just a little bit of a kind of sample, I'd say you've got to do your preparation and your research in order to grow as well. So if you're going to go for an interview at PwC, for example, what does PwC do? So let's do a quick case study example. If I'm going to PwC, I'm going to look at what they do. So I know that they are one of the big four accounting firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I know they're in the big four. So, and they're accounting, and then they're an accounting firm. Okay, what do? Well, they audit across audit and assurance, tax and legal, deals and consulting. Okay, so looking at their website here, I'm looking at their early careers, I'm looking at what they're trying to do. What you want to know as well in the job is, what are their values? What is their culture? What's the workplace culture? What are their values? And so when I initially click onto PwC's website, initially I see time for change. And they're talking about the evolving role of the CEO in building a future-ready business. And that's come from their CEO survey, and it's number 29. So whoever you're interviewing with, whoever's interviewing you, you've got to have a prerequisite due diligence completed. And you've got to do some due diligence around, if you don't know who's interviewing you, understand the hierarchy, understand the role, understand where the role sits in the business, understand the kind of the hard and soft skills that they're looking for. Soft skills are great, but you are going to have some hard skills. So let's just quickly do hard versus soft skill example for you, just to give you that. Hard skills is that technical knowledge and tasks specific to a role. So going into PwC and you want to be an accountant, you do have to have a good awareness of mathematics, for example. And then within that mathematical skill and foundation, I'm then building those really subtle and important soft skills of interpersonality, teamwork, work ethic, social cohesion, personal development, emotional intelligence, life experiences. So yes, I've got my formal education, which is a must. I've done my training courses. I've got the necessary prerequisite and required certifications. I've got that hands-on work experience. But concurrently, at the same time, I've got that personal development going on. I've got that growth mindset. Or if I'm not completely there, I'm developing that yet mindset. So again, that measurement. So they want to know around your test scores, for example, certification we mentioned, your soft skills now, there's that qualitative and subjective style, that leadership style, that ability to collaborate, the ability to get stuck into a task at hand. And, for example, examples of hard skills would be coding, Python, not necessarily for accountancy, these are general hard skills now, statistics and things like that. And then the soft skills, as we've really explained already, is that communication, that teamwork, that adaptability, problem solving, conflict resolution is really important. You are going to have conflict in roles. You might not enjoy it, but you're going to be able to understand how to navigate through that. And in interviews, people have asked me about, how do you deal with conflict? And I always say, I don't fight fire with fire, and I try to find a feasible solution in the midst of the storm. Okay. And really, so that's what we're talking about in the work context. I want to give you some pragmatic and practical examples, because that's what we're talking about in terms of leadership, asking questions, stepping into spaces out of your comfort zone. And I think that's what's really, really important. And that's really the work element as well. Okay, now let's talk about that in content and that brand growth. So, for example, this tip now is for anybody who's got a social media presence, anybody who is trying to build their business on social media. Really want to encourage you, from my own personal branding experience, you don't have to only post when everything is deemed perfect. And I do that because nothing's ever going to be perfect. You are going to have challenges and setbacks, but you're going to overcome them. You will overcome your challenges. But you don't want to just wait until everything's perfect for two reasons. The first reason is you don't want to hold yourself to a high standard that you can't be yourself. And the second thing is, people want to see your failures. They want to see how you get back up from those failures, because that's what makes your page authentic. That's what makes your page real. And that's why people buy into your page. And that's what's really important. Okay, building consistency, showcasing real life. You know, we are human beings who have challenges. We're all working on something. TikTok growth, for example, trusting the process. April 2024, I was on 160 followers. I was like, should I continue this? I'm now on 1.6k. One of my most recent videos got 1.1 million. That's what I spoke about in my podcast episode. And even the same with this YouTube channel, we had 106 subscribers 4 weeks ago. We're now on 5,400, something like that. So that's the growth. That's the grace of God, first of all. So thank you, Jesus, always. But also, I had to have that resilience and that discipline. So I'm demonstrating to you guys the importance of resilience and discipline for success. So you don't need a perfect platform to build that impact. You've just got to be you. Be unapologetically yourself. Be bold, be brave, be strong, which is one of the notebooks I sell on Amazon. And it speaks to anybody who's struggled with that. And I'm going to share that with you actually in this call. I don't usually actually share my resources, but I may as well share that resource because it's such an important topic to be thinking about. When we're thinking about journaling and self-confidence and things like that. So you type in Faith Brynel's insights. I'm going to share my screen now. Let's have a look. So this is the Be Brave, Be Bold, Be Strong. As you can see here, I've got several notebooks. I've got Be Brave, Be Bold, Be Strong, general notebooks. Life is a journey. Be you, be confident, be happy. Embrace your strength. Unleash your courage. Write down your dreams. Ignite the courage. Believe in yourself. Achieve your dreams. We've also got a great gratitude journal somewhere here as well. I think the gratitude journal might be here, but if you click onto Faith Brynel's Insights, you'll see the products really. The most popular one, actually, funnily enough, is the Be Brave, Be Bold, and Be Strong book. It's a notebook, and quite a few people have bought it. It did really well when we went to Primark a couple of years back, and it was great. So yeah, these are the books here. As you can see here, you can't see all of them at the moment, but I think once you type in Faith Brynel's Insights, you'll get a sense. Yeah, you see, here they are, right? So, we've got the gratitude journal, which might not be here. I've got a priority matrix journal as well. For those who watched last week's episode, I do have a priority matrix journal, Embrace the Journey. And I will be ordering a couple more of those. I'm launching my website very soon, and I will be selling these books as well. And those who come through the Work and Study Smarter series will get a discount. So these are some of the resources I've been working on. So let's run through these together. Be Brave, Be Bold, Be Strong. So that's a notebook. These are notebooks. I've got a goal-setting workbook and planner, study planners. I've got corner method, mind maps. I've got, let's have a look. I've got priority matrix books, gratitude journal here. This is the Unlock Your Boldness gratitude journal. Can we get a quick look at the inside? That's the gratitude journal. And then we've got the other notebooks as well. So there's plenty to choose from. And then since we're here as well, I may as well show you my digital range. This is the Faith B Design Studio on Etsy. This again, these are the digital resources. And again, this is around study skills as well. So this is it here. The Faith B Design Studios, these are the study skills planners, etc. We've got the printable workbooks here as well, the study planners and so on and so forth. And I will do a little bit more on that and showcase that a little bit more. Again, if you come through the Work and Study Smarter series, you will get a discount. So yeah, that's a little bit of an overview there. So that's been today's episode. So if you've been waiting to feel ready, apply, start, ask, try, because growth begins before confidence. Keep working smarter, keep building intentionally, and I'll see you in the next episode. So yeah, everyone, thanks again for coming. I'll see you in the next episode. Subscribe here on YouTube every Tuesday at 12 p.m. I know this one's come out a bit later today, but usually every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Remember, pivot and don't panic. Your journey begins now. Bye-bye.